is other beekeepers, social media, Facebook. Okay, you just got to use your own wisdom, steer away from that. Beekeeping ain't that hard. Pretty simple. Mites are your big issue. That's what we're going to talk about. You stick to mite control and stick to keeping them down, you're going to be successful. I'm going to say that over and over again. Now I'm going to tell you about what a mite is. A mite is a nasty little sucker. Looks like a crab. It attaches to the bees, does all sorts of nasty things to it. You may think of a mite as like a little flea thing, like a dog that has fleas. Well, how bad hurt a dog? Yeah, just a little teeny tiny thing. Just the proportions. This is a Varola mite. This is a Varola mite sized if I was the same size as a bee. A Varola mite lands on a bee somehow, crawls on them, usually on their back, and you'll hear people on the internet all the time saying, I looked into my bees and I didn't see any mites on the back. Well, that's because the mites are only there for a very short amount of time. Most of the time, mites are spent inside the capped brood laying eggs. The other time is they're migrating, walking around right here to the chest of the bee. A mite is somewhat related to a tick, and it has these front pinchers. It digs its head into the chest of the bee, and it sticks its head in. You've seen a tick embed in skin. It's almost the same thing. I want, just for impression, if you have bees, your hand, same size as the mite, put that on the chest. Think about this big crab ugly thing with its head stuck in the chest, in your chest. That's horrible. And what that mite is doing is it's got its head burrowed in there, and the first thing it goes after is what is known as the fat body. And the fat body of a bee is the same thing as our liver. And the liver of a bee is also its immune system. So the mite has its head in there. It is eating the fat body, which is the immune system of the bee. At the same time as it's doing that, it's transmitting diseases to the bee. So the bee is getting all these diseases. We don't even know how many there are. Like 20 some. They're discovering new diseases transmitting all the time. It's transmitting diseases. At the same time, it's sucking out the thing that mite has to fight, or the bee has to fight the disease. Your bees have no chance against this thing. And for those people, I didn't do this. If you ever one of my mite classes, I'll trick you in the beginning, and I'll ask everybody before I get started in the mites how they're going to treat their bees. There'll always be, don't raise your hand, don't pick on you, don't do this, don't raise your hand. There'll always be somebody that says, I'm going to do natural beekeeping. Oh, I will just lay into you. I will make you put this on your chest and make it stick its little things in there. Think about that for that hour that I'm going to talk about that thing with its head burrowed in there. This is a nasty little thing. And if you don't control it, your bees will die. Those are the same people that say, I want to be treatment free, I want to keep the chemicals down and things like that. They also call their bees their girls, my ladies. My girls are out there making honey for them. Oh, I don't want to give my girls those harsh chemicals. Well, your girls are out there suffering with this thing buried into its chest. It'd be more humane to your girls to light them on fire. Kill them. Why let them suffer, especially all winter? Let them suffer all winter with these things buried into them as they have this slow death until they eventually freeze. That's a tough way. That's inhumane. Yes, they will die. So, The Lorain County group has come up. Varroa mite treatment. Let me start that. Varroa mite treatment can be tricky. The preferred method for controlling mites is to apply something that will kill the mites when the mite levels get to a certain level, what we call a threshold. That threshold is different depending on time of the year. The method for doing that is called a mite wash. It used to be called an alcohol wash. Now we don't use alcohol, we use Dawn dish soap. And we use something that looks like this, or you can make your own, and you sample, take 300 bees out of your hive, put it into there with Dawn dishwashing liquid solution, shake it up, kills the bees almost instantly, and then you look at the bottom and count the number of bees. And that gives you a number. Well, that worked extremely well. That is the only acceptable way that people who do research, such as our universities, myself, other scientists out there that are doing research on bees, this is the only acceptable way of measuring mite levels. There's other ways that you can do it and get a sort of idea, like powdered sugar and things like that. It sort of works. But here's what we found. This is pretty clever, this Lorain group here. They figured out that for the first 2, 3, 4 years, most new beekeepers don't have the skills to do this right. They get nervous because when you do this and have to shake off those bees to get them in the cup, there's a lot of stuff happening and a lot of bees flying around. It makes new beekeepers nervous. The other thing is new beekeepers really that good at finding the queen all the time, so sometimes they wash the queen. So this is a higher skill level thing to do. Eventually, you need to work towards measuring your bees properly, or measuring your mite levels properly on your bees. So, Lorain group figured that out. Figured out that most of these new beekeepers don't have that skill level. Other clubs are saying treat your bees when the mites get so bad. This club has figured out, no. What we're going to do is we're going to put all of our new beekeepers on a schedule that we find that works really good for Northeast Ohio. Take it farther, take it south, or out west. This schedule may not work. So at the same time that the Lorain group was developing this little schedule, coincidentally, I was also. It's kind of weird. They came together at the same time, and for 2 years we tested the schedule. And this schedule tells you what, on, let's say, this June 1st, this is the type of treatment you're supposed to do. On August 1st, this is the treatment you're supposed to do. If you stick to this schedule, you're pretty much got mites work. Now there are occasions where you may have to do something else. In this little, I'm going to start some down this way. If I take one of these, get some more. In this pamphlet is everything about mite control. There's a lot in here. Hand them out if you already have it. And then any of their extras send back to me up here. On the very, I'll give it a second to get handed around. There's almost everything in this one pamphlet that new beekeepers need to control their mites. Now, if you're an older beekeeper, let's say you've been doing this for quite a few years, you can still stick to the schedule. In my research apiary, I stick to the schedule because I got a lot of hives and it's a lot easier for me. I still, though, go out and test for mites. What I'm finding, because I'm here in Northeast Ohio, I don't have to vary off the schedule hardly at all. Last year there was something weird that happened towards fall that it looked like we needed an extra treatment, but that was an aberration. The very last page, back page, is a schedule by month of treatments. And there's 2 different types of treatments that we want you to stick to as new beekeepers, and those are the natural acids. The natural acids, and we emphasize the word natural acid because there's always a few people that like to stick to, that don't like the word chemical, and like to stick to nature, even though everything is chemical. Yes? Okay. And again, if there's any extras, send them up this way.
One more. Sorry. Two more.
5.
5. Give me a stack. Thanks. Here you go.
Some more here need some too. What was my spot? Oxalic acid, formic acid. All chemicals are natural. If you got any science in your background, you know everything is natural. All chemicals are natural. But oxalic acid is found in rhubarb. Formic acid is used by ants to defend things. These are things that are found in nature. And by concentrating these and using them at a right concentrations, we find that they do little or no harm to our bees, but are deadly to our mites. The other thing is, there's a lot of other chemical treatments out there. Apivar, Apistan, tons of different other mite treatments out there. Those are true miticides. That was a chemical that was developed to just attack mites. The problem with a miticide is that a mite can develop resistance to it. So if you use miticides, yeah, they do work, but they may not work for you for that long. If you stick to these two things of oxalic and formic acid, it's an acid. It burns the mites. Mites don't, or anything, develop a resistance to acid. It's like you or me developing a resistance to fire. It's not going to happen. So stick to these things. They work really well. Oxalic acid, we do in two different forms. We dribble it on, or we use a vaporizer to put get it in there. Either way works just about as well. They kill the mites about as well. The thing I want you to remember is if you're using oxalic acid kills the mites that are on the bees. It doesn't kill 3/4 of the mites that are underneath the cap brood, breeding or laying eggs. I heard a question. No? Okay. Oxalic acid only kills the mites that are on the bees. So if you're treating with only oxalic acid, you're only killing the mites that are on the bees. Yes, I repeated that. So when you get into summer and fall, you've got a lot of mites because they've been brooding building up because there's been lots of brood. There's a lot of mites in the cap brood. You need to kill them all. The only tool, if you're sticking to the natural acids that we have, is formic acid. All of this is in that little brochure. There's a lot per square inch in that little part. Formic acid kills the mites that are on the bees and the mites that are in the brood. It kills them all. Is there a disadvantage to formic acid? Nah, there's some drawbacks. The main one is, what's the main drawback of formic acid? Oh, it doesn't.
Oh, I thought it did.
No. That's a social media thing.
Temperature constraints.
You're close. You're getting close. Okay, and you're close also. So he said drawback to formic acid, temperature. Drawback to formic acid is, we're back to number one, new beekeepers. Not following the directions. Formic acid, made by Nod Industries in Canada, comes in 2 packages, Formic Pro and Mitaway Quick Strips. I don't know why they have 2, but they do. They're both pretty good. I buy whichever one is available and cheapest. If you don't follow the directions, it can kill your bees. If you follow the directions, it will harm your bees in the least little bit. Last year, myself and 4 other beekeepers did a study of new beekeepers using formic acid. We just gave them the formic acid and said, put this in your hives while we watched. Of the 20 or so that we gave it to, I think it was 16 of them had followed the directions exactly. 4 of them did not. Now we stopped them before they actually did it, but those 4 that didn't read the directions would have killed their queens. So you must follow the directions. It's that simple. I know some of us have chromosomes. Got that thing in our genes that says don't read directions. You have to read the directions. Follow the video. Watch the video. It's that easy to do. This stuff is incredibly effective. So now we're going to do 2 things. Demo. We're going to open up the hive, and we're going to demonstrate how to do a dribble. Matter of fact, you guys can all do it here as many times as you want. In your little brochure is the formula on page 3 of how to mix this stuff up. Really easy. It's just sugar, water, and oxalic acid. How much does the formula change from 8 or 10? The formula that's the recipe that's in there makes about that much. That'll treat about 10 boxes. So this makes extra, and then you can just store it in the refrigerator. The only bad thing about storing in the refrigerator, I caution you, is this stuff is delicious. I'm dead serious. Make sure if you got kids or grandkids around, and that they can read and will read. This stuff is delicious. It'll give a child a bellyache if you drink it up.
Do you need to shake it up then before the next use?
Whatever, something. I don't know.
Do you need to shake it up before the
Yeah, you just put it in the refrigerator. It'll keep for a long time. The sugar might settle a little bit. Just shake it up. So since we're doing a demonstration on these aren't my hives, I didn't put the oxalic acid in here. So this is just sugar water. It wouldn't look any different. It'd be the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
She asked if she could use hers from last year.
Probably, yeah. I don't think it ever expires. Yeah. But it's also, if you have any doubt, your investment in here isn't even 25 cents.
Right.
Just yes.
So, if you treat and you have open home,
Open brood.
like if you have cells that are empty, if you have cells that have eggs, if you have cells that have larvae, and you're treating, it's going to penetrate
So, okay, I think I did. Let me clarify. This only kills mites that are on the bees or the solution comes in contact with. It kills in 2 different methods. First of all, as you dribble it in, if it happens to hit a mite, they let go and die. They actually say that. Also, the bees ingest this sugar water, and they, just like us eating garlic, they exude it. And so that also helps knock the mites off the pump. If you do this, this is one of those things that is a really good winter treatment. We'll find one of those days in January and February in Ohio where it gets 45 degrees. Open up that hive and do a quick dribbling. Be nice and warm it up so you're not dribbling cold stuff on them. It's kind of rude. Dribble some nice warm sugar water on bees in the wintertime. I swear they look up at you and smile. That's wonderful. They're getting a nice warm sugar bath right on their face. Yum, yum, yum.
You answered her question.
I think I did.
At least I didn't get it. I don't understand how that didn't get into the larvae.
It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. Only if it comes in contact with the mite. Formic acid, okay. Formic acid does kill mites that are underneath the brood cap. It's a gas. I'll get to you in a second. It's a gas, and it's small enough molecule that it can penetrate the capping on the brood, and it will kill the mites that way. Very good, very well too. Yes, ma'am. Oh no, this is only for bees. Yeah, yeah. No kid should ever drink this. You'll have a bad bellyache. Honestly, it tastes kind of tart and sugary. Okay, let's show how to do this. The only thing you have to do is mix up the recipe. Get a syringe. I don't care where you get the syringe. It could be a big one like this. They sell it in there. You can get it at Tractor Supply, local heroin dealer. I don't know. Medical supplies. In there, it tells you very clearly there is a dosage that you have to do of no more than 50 milliliters per 10 frame brood box. If you have 8, you're going to have to do some math. 40? Right, do 40. If you have 2 brood boxes, you do 50 on each brood box. Let's pretend. Could you hand me that empty brood box right now? Okay. Let's pretend there was a lid on here. This hive happens to have 2 brood boxes. I first off have to have a smoker lid. I open up the top. I'm going to give some smoke not only to calm them down, but then the next thing I have to do is I have to separate the 2 brood boxes. I separate them out. I could set this on the lid, on the ground, however I want to do it. And I'm going to suck up 50 milliliters of solution. You have to treat brood boxes, not just one. You can't let it just drip down. 50 milliliters for each brood box. Lots of smoke. Smoke the bees. Bees have to be between the frames. Between the frames. Not to be on top, between the frames. They should be between the frames, looking up at you, just like that. Once they're down there, you simply go down, put 5 milliliters. I've done this a lot, so I'm pretty quick. 5 milliliters in each frame, or down between each seam. And then how you practice this is just fill up something with water, and you just get the hang of how much to press to make 5 milliliters go down each time. It's just a practice thing. Everybody that I've ever done this with or taught them how to do it, I don't think it takes most people 2-3 minutes to figure out how much to push down each time. It's really, really simple. This is one of the simplest ways to treat for mites. First off, it's cheap. This is all you need to have. And it's effective. There is a drug. Let's go. Really would caution against using oxalic acid dribbling as your sole mite treatment. And the reason is we have found that after maybe 3 or 4 treatments in a year, each time you do it, it does a teeny tiny amount of damage to a queen's antenna. Actually, it does it to all of the bees' antennas. But since most of the bees only live 6 weeks, it doesn't matter. But after about 3 or 4 treatments of dribbling, that queen's antennas are getting a little ratty, and they may try to replace her. So, going out and using only dribbling and dribbling 10 times a year, that's going to be really hard on your queen. However, if that is the only thing you have a chance to do, it's way better than letting them have mites. Way better. However, I want you to have in your toolbox the ability to do formic acid. Anybody got a little bit of water? Anything.
Here you go.
You know, it's just,
I'll get that in your mouth.
Is that the same with the smoked oxalic acid as well?
Very good question. So oxalic acid, there's two ways to do it. It's in that brochure: dribbling or vaporizing. Thank you for bringing it up. Vaporizing works is as effective as dribbling. Its disadvantage is you have to buy one of those wands, vaporizer. How much do they cost? $30. Not even. Okay, $30. You got to also carry a battery around, and each time you do it, it takes 5 minutes, something like that. There's someone like me, if you got somebody's story. There again. You think it's something funny. Vaporizers work wonderfully. If you have 10 hives and it takes 5 minutes each time, well, you've got to take an hour to do it. Still, that's a worthwhile investment. Vaporizers work wonderfully, but they do not do any damage to the queen that we know of. So if you have a vaporizer, use it. Pour in the gas. Yes, sir. Okay.
Now, is that that's supposed to be effective getting all the different stages, right?
Yes. In your brochure, God, I keep coming back to this little piece of paper. In your brochure, it'll tell you to use formic acid at certain critical times of the year. But it'll also say that if you don't have it available, either out of stock or you're just opposed to that, you can substitute, instead of that one formic acid treatment, you can substitute 3 treatments of oxalic acid, be it dribble or vaporizer. So how you do that is do it today, and then you do it again a week from now, and then you do it again a week after that. And what that is doing, if you care, is you're killing all the mites that are on the brood. Then you wait a week. You wait a week, and more bees hatch out. The ones that have hatched out have mites on them. Do a treatment, it kills them. Wait another week, more mites hatch out, or bees hatch out with mites on them, and you kill them. So the idea is you've got a full brood stage and kill them all. Formic acid is even better though. It's even better. Because you're still going to miss a few. Yes?
Are you doing those 3 treatments? Is that as a prophylactic method, or because they already have mites, or that's just substituting
Well,
the formic
what we're
acid?
teaching you right today, because we're very cautious about teaching newer beekeepers how to test for mites. So we're teaching you a schedule to stick to, which is a prophylactic treatment. So whether you have mites or not, you're going to treat on June 1st, you're going to do an oxalic acid treatment, and on August 1st, you're going to do a formic acid treatment or equivalent. Yes?
I've heard some people say just assume that you have them and go through with your treatments. Is that feasible?
That is very true.
Okay.
You should assume you have mites, but on the schedule that we've given you, we know that there are certain peak times of mites. We know that if you've come out of winter, done your winter treatments properly, we know that about this time of year, if you've done everything right up to this time, your mite levels should be pretty low. So we're going to, on June 1st, which is a couple days ago, ask you to just do a nice little touch-up of oxalic acid. Knock down the few mites that are there. Your most important treatment, though, is your August 1st treatment. August 1st is your most important one. The reason being is for winter survival. Crap. In August? It's 95 degrees and humid here. Why is that most important? Well, it's important because starting in August and September, your queen starts to lay nurse bees that are then going to raise your winter bees. If everybody understands what a winter bee versus a regular bee is, a nurse bee lives 6 weeks, except in the winter. In the winter, those nurse bees live about 6 months. Kind of cool. The queen knows that winter's coming, and so sometime in late September, she genetically lays different eggs. And those eggs will turn into winter bees. Those winter bees are a little bit fatter. They have a bigger, fat body. They can live longer than 6 months. If those those winter bees are unhealthy going into winter, you only get one set of winter bees. If they're unhealthy going into winter, I don't care how many wraps you put on, they're gonna die. So you need to start your winter preparation August 1st and get them squeaky clean. Great. Lost my train of thought after that thing. August 1st, get them super clean, ready for winter. Right. Formic acid treatment. The main key of formic acid is in that brochure 3 or 4 times. Read the directions. We're going to do a formic acid treatment, fake one, right now. And
Question on the formic acid.
yes, sir.
It's very specific temperature range.
Well, hold the thought. So there's some people, obviously, who've done a formic acid treatment. We're going to, we'll do it to, okay. Read the directions, read the directions, read the directions. Now, as we go along, I want people to shout out the things you have to do. Your first one was? Temperature. It has a temperature range of 50 degrees Fahrenheit to 85 degrees Fahrenheit for the first 3 days. If it's below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, you put it in there, it does no harm, it just doesn't do anything until the temperature comes back up. If, however, you put it in there above 85, it kills the queen. Actually, here's a secret. It's 90 degrees is the actual limit. So 80, there's a 5-degree pad there. Yes?
Is that 80 inside the hive?
No, good question. That's 85 degrees maximum temperature for the first 3 days outside the hive. We can find in Ohio, even in August, 3 days in a row where it's not going to be above 85. Not a problem. Start looking at your calendar, end of July, start looking at your calendar or the Weather Channel. You can find 3 days. No problem. Other things that you have to do to make this right. Okay, what about the mite board? Should it be in or out?
In.
I heard one answer was in, one answer was out, one answer was correct. It needs to be in. Mite board needs to be in. How about entrance reducers, in or out? Out. You know how to answer. Your whole genetic pool cannot answer back there. You're in the advanced class.
We've all been excluded. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You know the answers. Entrance reducer out. Okay. How about any ventilation at the top?
Always.
The answer is always. There needs to be some ventilation at the top. You know, raise it up a little bit. If you've got a hole in the top, that's good. Anything to let a ventilation at the top. Yes. Well, we're going to show you where to put it. Does not matter if it's a screen bottom board or solid. Because if it's a screen bottom board, we want that mite board to be in. I'm not going to treat these bees. We're going to pretend these are two formic pads. If you've never seen these things, they come in a silver packet. And you open up the silver packet, and these pads, first off, you open it up and you get hit with this smell. Don't open it right in front of your face. It's very similar to, have you ever got too close to the ammonia bottle? Ooh, oh, that's kind of what it smells like. So you should wear gloves. You should keep it far away. Maybe put a mask on. A COVID mask won't work too well. You want to put on some breather mask, or just keep it away. You'll be fine. It's not. About 4 or 5 years ago when these things first came out, man, you couldn't get within 5-10 feet of them. Man, they were strong. They're not nearly as strong and smelling anymore. You open up the silver pack, and you'll see two pads that are stuck together. You peel them apart. There's this inner gel stuff that is wrapped with paper. Do not take the paper off. The paper is the control mechanism for releasing the chemical. It's an actual, it's not paper. It's a permeable barrier that times the release of that formic acid. If you take the paper off, you'll get the full formic hit of acid immediately. It dies. So related to that, what's another very important issue with formic pads? Yep. Yeah, there you go, got it. The expiration date. These things have expiration dates. They're written in black letters about a ½ inch on the outside of the packs. If these things expire, they will kill your queen. What happens is that paper, Barry, you need something, Randy? I thought maybe you needed Sally. If this product paper barrier that piece of the formic solution, it becomes ineffective and releases it too quickly. Throw them away. They're no good. It may be counterintuitive to say, like a lot of medicines that we have, once they expire, they just become less strong. It's the opposite with these formic pads. They become stronger. Manuel's the only Amish standing here, so I'm going to pick on it anyway. I have a couple of my Amish friends that were keeping this stuff around for 4 or 5 years and trying to throw it in the hives and wondering why they died. So, yeah, don't keep it around. Throw it out. Once it's done, it's compostable. It's another little thing. Just throw it in the compost pile. Looks like an agar gel. It's a hard gel. It's no big deal. Okay, so here's my 2 pads. And I've opened up the top. We're just going to use this as a demonstration. This is the brood box. There are 2 brood boxes. One on top of the other. You have a hive with 2 brood boxes. Who can answer the question, where do I put these pads? In between. Perfect. You take off the top brood box, place these across the brood area like that. Just like that. Do you need to take notes on this? No, because Knot Industries, the people who make this, have wonderful video that shows you all of this. Follow the directions, please. You then take the other box, put it back on top, close it up with a little ventilation on top, make sure the slider board is in. It's not over 85 degrees for the next 3 days, you're done.